Why are you back so soon, Kenzie? Checked my bank account. It's not right.
What's the big deal?
9 grand is missing. After a long weekend in Nashville, Tennessee, I returned to my small apartment, expecting a quiet evening. Just Netflix, scented candles, and fried chicken. Everything seemed normal until I opened my banking app on my phone. The number that appeared made my heart drop into a deep void. $83.52. I blinked repeatedly, reloaded 3 times, but the result didn't change. Just 2 days ago, I had over $9,000 in the account. It felt like a truck had slammed straight into my chest. My heart pounded like frantic knocking at midnight. With trembling hands, I called the bank. After verifying my identity, the employee coldly informed me. The transactions were made from a device previously logged in, matching the IP address of a personal computer. I froze. It was definitely my mom's computer, the one the whole family used during the weekend gathering. Without thinking, I grabbed my keys and drove straight to my mother's house. The old kitchen where I'd once learned how to bake cookies now felt like it was choking me. Amanda, my sister, lounged on the sofa, holding a glass of red wine, her face relaxed as if nothing had happened. Marcus, my brother-in-law, leaned against the fridge, smirking, throwing me a half-mocking, half-challenging look. "We needed that money more than you did, Kenzie." Marcus shrugged, a dagger straight to the chest. I stood frozen, unable to say a word. Amanda let out a sharp laugh, pouring more wine into her glass, shaking her head like I was overreacting. "Chill out. You're single, no kids, solid job. You're fine." I turned to my mother, the person who once taught me that family is the safest place in the world. She didn't look at me, calmly knitting as if nothing had happened. "You're being too sensitive," Mom sighed. "You have more. What's wrong with sharing a little?" I felt like a stranger in the very house where I grew up. Not a single apologetic glance. Not a single sorry. Only cheap excuses and a terrifying indifference. Even my father, who had once taught me to live kindly, just glanced at his phone screen and mumbled, "Don't be so harsh. It's family business." The entire house fell silent, heavy like it was about to collapse. I looked at those faces, the people who had once been my entire world, and for the first time I realized I had never truly been seen as a person here, just a walking wallet. What hurt the most wasn't losing the money. It was losing trust. Their excuses sounded as if I was the one at fault for not sharing. They felt no guilt, only inconvenience for being caught. When Marcus laughed and threw out, "It's not like we blew it on Gucci bags or anything. It was rent, groceries, survival, Kenzie." I almost cried. Not out of anger, but out of despair. Family. That word once evoked warmth in me, now sounded like a cruel joke. Family, where sharing only ever meant one way, and love only existed as long as you could pay their bills. When I turned and walked out of the house, no one tried to stop me. No one asked if I was okay. Only my mother, casually, as if asking about dinner. "Don't forget Sunday dinner." I stood there, hand on the doorknob, tears brimming in my eyes. But instead of turning back, I simply whispered, "Wait and see." Stepping out into the damp Nashville air, I took a deep breath. Light rain fell onto my hair, but I didn't care. A bigger storm was brewing inside me. Not a storm of hatred, but one of awakening. I knew I had just crossed a threshold I could never return from. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I was ready to glow up, no longer living to be anyone's ATM. I drove through the rain like a ghost, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. The streets of Nashville blurred behind the rain-soaked windshield, but the words of Marcus, Amanda, Mom stayed sharp, each one slicing into my mind like a razor blade. "It's not stealing, it's sharing. You're fine. Stop being dramatic." I don't remember how I parked at Green Hills Mall. I only knew that once I stopped, I broke down, crying alone in the cold parking lot under the yellowish streetlights. Not because of the lost money, but because I realized that all these years, the love I gave to my family was a one-way street, and I kept running down it blindly, even as my feet bled. I once believed that if I was patient enough, kind enough, they would be grateful. A random hug, a simple thank you would have been enough. but instead I received contemptuous looks, dry laughter, and careless words. Kenzie's the strong one. Kenzie's the stable one. They said it as an excuse to drain every dollar from my account, every small dream I had buried because of family duty. When I bought a birthday gift for Haley, I had to eat cheese sandwiches all week. When I paid Mom's overdue electric bill, I had to postpone changing dangerously worn tires. When I wired Marcus money for rent, I had to cancel a hiking trip I had been looking forward to all year. They didn't know, or rather they never cared, how much those silent sacrifices had cost me: my youth, my health, and my trust. That night in my small apartment, I sat silently by the window. The lights from surrounding apartments flickered like tiny stars, but to me everything was just a dull gray. I opened my phone. A message from Amanda. "Grow up, Kenzie. It's just money." I laughed, a dry, painful laugh. Just money. For them, it was a few clicks. For me, it was countless sleepless nights, countless times denying myself the things I loved just to stay financially stable. I recalled a trending quote I had seen recently: "If they wanted to, they would. If they truly loved me, they wouldn't have done this." That very night, I decided I would no longer let anyone treat me like a breathing ATM. I opened my laptop and started digging through every transaction, every receipt, every old email. My hands trembled as I realized the help I once thought was voluntary was actually systematic exploitation, an invisible debt I was forced to carry simply because I seemed better off. I wrote a list: $450 for Amanda's phone, $800 for Marcus's rent, $1,200 to rescue Mom from credit card debt, $300 for a birthday party no one asked if I could afford to attend. The numbers kept growing, each line carving deeper the lesson: kindness without boundaries is emotional suicide. I put the pen down. My heart ached, but strangely, I felt lighter. It was no longer the pain of betrayal, but the pain of stepping out of a cage I had built for myself. The next morning, I woke up early. The first sunlight slipped through the curtains, like a reminder. No matter how long the night, the sun would rise. I made myself a cup of coffee, added a splash of vanilla syrup, a tiny luxury I used to deny myself because I needed to save for the family. That first sip was sweet and warm, like the first time in years I allowed myself to treat myself kindly. Before leaving for work, I left a sticky note on the door. No more free passes. No more silent suffering. Protect your peace. And for the first time in my life, I stepped out of the house not just with my wallet, my phone, or my keys. I walked out carrying something far more precious: the determination to love myself, no matter who didn't understand. That morning, as I stepped out of my apartment, I felt like I was stepping out of the shell I had locked myself in for so many years. No longer Kenzie who always yielded, who was always okay with every unreasonable demand. I was someone new, someone learning to reclaim her own voice. I drove straight to the central branch of the bank in Nashville without a hint of hesitation. My hands clutched a thick folder: bank statements, bills, text messages, emails, and evidence showing that my account had been accessed without permission. The employee who greeted me, a young woman named Valerie, smiled politely. But as I spread the documents in front of her, her expression immediately turned serious. "I believe my account was hacked and my money stolen by family members," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. No more trembling, no more tears. Valerie nodded, carefully reviewing each paper. She called the manager and quickly contacted the Financial Crimes Investigation Unit. "We'll launch an investigation immediately, Kenzie," Valerie said softly. "Since the incident involves internal exploitation of personal information, it's highly likely it qualifies for a criminal case." Hearing those words, a part of me wanted to collapse, from the pain of dragging my own family into the light. But another part, stronger, whispered, "You're not betraying them. You're protecting yourself." The next day, I printed out all the documents in triplicate: one for the lawyer, one for the investigators, and one to keep for myself, as a reminder that kindness should not come with blindness. Every time my hand brushed over those numbers, those money requests, those nameless transactions, I remembered each sleepless night working overtime, every canceled trip, Every beautiful dress I whispered maybe next month about because I still had to help family. No, I had stayed silent too long. Enough. 1 week later, while making coffee in my kitchen, my phone rang. An unknown number. I picked up, my palm instinctively sweating. Miss Kenzie Hartwell? Yes. This is Officer Ramirez from Metro Financial Crimes. We've reviewed your case. You were right. There's substantial evidence of unauthorized access and misuse of funds. We'll be proceeding to the next steps. I gripped the phone tightly, not out of fear, but because a fresh surge of emotion rushed through me. Validation. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overly sensitive. I wasn't the drama queen Amanda had once mocked. I was someone who had loved the wrong way and was now learning to love the right way, starting with myself. That same day, I composed a simple email to each family member. From today onward, I will let the law handle this. I do not wish to receive any more calls, messages, or emotional pressure. Please respect my decision. Kenzie. I hit send. One small click, but an enormous leap forward. That very evening, my phone buzzed nonstop. Marcus. Seriously, you're ruining the family. Amanda. You're being petty and selfish. Mom. You could just let it go. Don't make things worse. I read each line like rereading an old script, where I was always the one blamed, always the one labeled too sensitive every time I dared to speak up. But this time, I didn't respond. No justifications, no tears. I had outgrown that vicious cycle. That night, I stepped onto the balcony, wrapping myself in a thin blanket, listening to the sounds of Nashville by night. Inside me brewed a storm of emotions. Sadness, regret, pain, but also tiny glimmers of hope. Maybe I would lose the people I once loved most. Maybe they would forever see me as the betrayer. But I knew I had just saved myself. And sometimes in this life, choosing yourself is the bravest thing you can do. 3 days after I sent the email cutting off all contact, Nashville welcomed a heavy rainstorm. But the real storm wasn't outside. It was inside my phone, buzzing nonstop with calls and messages that I no longer bothered to open. I knew this moment would come, but I didn't expect it to be this fast and furious. That morning, I received a call from Officer Ramirez. His voice was deep and firm. Kenzie, we've completed the extended investigation order. Tonight, the Financial Crimes Unit team will visit the involved parties' residences for direct verification. I stood frozen in the kitchen, a cup of cold coffee in my hand. I wasn't happy that they were about to face consequences. I was relieved because, for the first time, justice was truly on my side. Around 7 p.m., as I was sitting by the window reading, my phone rang again. It was from an old neighbor, Ms. Melissa, who lived 3 houses down from my mom's. Kenzie, I don't know if I should tell you this, but there are some SUVs parked outside your mom's house. People wearing jackets labeled Financial Crimes Unit. They're knocking and asking about you. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. This wasn't just between me and my family anymore. This was the truth being brought into the light. An hour later, my phone blew up with frantic messages. Amanda, what the hell did you do? They're freezing my account. Marcus, you're seriously destroying us over a misunderstanding. Mom, Kenzie, please call me. We're family. We can fix this. I didn't respond. I didn't have to fix anything anymore. The next day, as I walked into the office, my team manager looked at me with concern. A local reporter called, asking to verify a financial investigation related to you. Don't worry, we didn't say anything. But if you need to take time off for personal matters, just let me know. I smiled gently, an indescribable sense of gratitude flooding my chest. Thank you. I'm okay. Actually, I'm doing the right thing. And it was true. Even though my heart still had scars, I knew I was protecting my peace, something I had never dared to prioritize before. That evening, Amanda sent me a long, rambling text. Haley's tuition is due. Our bank accounts are frozen. I can't pay her school. Are you happy now, Kenzie? You destroyed everything. I read each word, but my heart no longer trembled like before. No, Amanda. I wasn't happy that anyone was suffering. I was just finally free from the guilt trap they had tied me to throughout my youth. The last sentence in the text. "You destroyed everything," lingered in my mind all night. But the truth was, I hadn't destroyed anything. I had simply stopped trying to patch up pieces I hadn't broken. My family had created that wreckage themselves, with selfishness, greed, and disregard for others' kindness. I just refused to continue being the foundation on which they built their castles out of my sacrifices. 2 days later, I received an email from Officer Ramirez. "Miss Hartwell, after verifying the transactions, we have sufficient evidence to charge Amanda Walker with unlawful appropriation of assets. Marcus Walker is under investigation as an accomplice. Donna and Richard Hartwell, your parents, are implicated in misusing funds and may be required to repay all misappropriated amounts." I collapsed onto the couch, tears streaming uncontrollably, but not out of sadness, out of pure relief. Finally, my story had been heard. No one could call me dramatic anymore. No one could brush aside my pain. No one could impose the duty to forgive simply because of the word family. I stood up, flung open the window. Nashville was still raining. The icy raindrops slid across my skin, but I didn't feel cold. I lifted my face to the rain, letting it wash away all the years of silent suffering. Tomorrow I knew there would be more messages, more calls accusing me of being ungrateful, cruel. But I wouldn't be afraid anymore, because finally, I had chosen myself. And I swore, from that day forward, no one would ever be allowed to hurt me again. I couldn't count how many days had passed since the last time I allowed myself to hope my family would change. But now, I no longer wished for them to turn around. I only wished for myself to move forward. And this time, without looking back. On Monday morning, I sat in front of my laptop in my small apartment, still faintly scented with freshly roasted coffee. In the inbox was an email from the company, a promotion offer for the position of regional marketing coordinator for the West Coast. In the past, I would have hesitated for sure, afraid I wasn't worthy, afraid that if I succeeded too much, my family would label me a traitor. But today, it only took me exactly 3 minutes to click accept. Success isn't selfish, it's survival. I looked out the window, where the first rays of Nashville's sun pierced through the thick clouds, like a tiny beam of light shining straight into a place I once thought I could never escape. I spent the whole afternoon cleaning the apartment, not just organizing belongings, but organizing my life. I threw old things into a box, family photos with fake smiles, birthday gifts that pressured me to repay with even more expensive ones. Meanwhile, my phone kept buzzing with messages. My mother, the one who once gently sang me to sleep, now only sent cold texts like invoices. "If you don't help, the house will be foreclosed." "How can you be so heartless?" Not a single message asked, "Kenzie, are you okay? Are you hurting? How have we hurt you?" Only demands, blame, and guilt tripping. I put the phone down, didn't reply. Not reacting is also resisting. A week later, I officially signed the contract for the new position. That same day, I signed another contract, a lease for a small, cozy studio apartment in Boulder, Colorado, the town I had once passed through briefly and never forgot the sense of peace it gave me. The moving truck departed on a chilly morning in early October. Nashville faded behind me, curling into memories I no longer wanted to touch. I didn't bring much, only what was truly mine. Books, clothes, my laptop, a few paintings I had painted myself, and an old worn-out notebook. No more emotional baggage, only essentials. Boulder welcomed me with a crisp, clear afternoon. The sky stretched endlessly, soft golden sunlight sprinkling over rooftops. I parked in front of my new apartment, took a deep breath, and felt the crisp mountain chill. A strange feeling filled my heart. Freedom. No one knew where I was. No one could come demanding, coercing, or manipulating me anymore. On my first morning waking up in Boulder, I brewed coffee in the new kitchen, sat by the window watching the sun rise over the Rockies. I opened my laptop and typed a few lines to my new boss. "I'm excited for this new chapter. Thank you for believing in me." But the next line, I wrote for myself. In blue ink in my old notebook, "I believe in myself too." For the first time, that belief didn't come from anyone else. No need for a comforting call, No need for a reluctant compliment. Just me. And that was enough. On a Saturday afternoon, I wandered along Pearl Street, among cozy little shops and the sound of guitar strumming from a street corner. A group of teenagers played music. An old woman sold handmade pastries. A couple laughed hand in hand. I stopped in front of a small cafe where a hand-painted sign hung, "You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm." I smiled. Sometimes the biggest life lessons come from a handwritten sign on a random street corner. No need to burn yourself out for anyone. No need to abandon yourself to feel loved. I bought a latte, found a warm corner by the window, and opened my notebook to write, Kenzie Hartwell, survivor, dreamer, free. This time, no one could erase those words, except me. And I knew, no matter what the future held, I had already reclaimed the most precious thing, my own voice. Life in Boulder passed slowly but was never dull. Every morning, I woke up with sunlight flooding the room, a hot latte in hand, and no demanding messages waiting. A true kind of peace. Not forced, not haunting. I started documenting my journey on a small blog, known only to close friends. At first, I thought it was just a way to self-heal, a quiet kind of storytelling, but I didn't expect that those silent words would begin to spread. One afternoon, while working in my favorite cafe, my phone buzzed with a new email from an unfamiliar name, Melanie Carter. Curious, I opened it. "Hi, Kenzie. You might not remember me, but we met at a small family gathering. I just wanted to say thank you. I was once in your position, too, the strong one, the one expected to always be okay. When I read your story, I cried silently. You gave me the courage to say enough, to understand that setting boundaries isn't lack of love, it's the right kind of love." I read it over and over again, a pure, overwhelming emotion rising in my chest. Someone out there who had once been lost, who had once suffered like me, was now finding light because of my actions. There was no need to shout it to the world. Sometimes one small act, one honest story, is enough to light someone else's path. In the days that followed, I received more similar emails. A girl named Ruby from Ohio, a guy named Seth from Oregon. They all had something in common. They had been suffocated under family pressure, once believed they had to sacrifice everything to prove their love, once thought silent endurance was a duty. And now they were learning how to breathe, for the first time, with their own lungs. Seth once wrote, "I used to think I just needed to endure a little more, suffer a little longer, and people would understand. But no one did. When you stand up for yourself, you don't just save yourself, you save those who are quietly watching, hoping for a miracle in their own lives." I cried when reading those lines, not out of sadness, but because for the first time, I truly saw myself, not as the silent shadow enduring everything, not as the mirror shattered by family and then asked to mend itself, but as someone who was creating the first cracks in the wall of silence and suffering, allowing light to seep through. One Sunday evening, while sitting by the window watching a thin layer of snow fall onto rooftops, I asked myself, if that day I hadn't stood up, if I had continued to forgive, to endure, to be patient because of blood ties, would I still be here, whole, writing these words? The answer sent a chill down my spine. I would not still be me. I would be a walking corpse moving through demands and expectations. Standing up didn't just save my bank account, it saved my soul. That weekend, I attended a small self-healing workshop in the artist district of Pearl Street. No one there knew I had once been the family burden carrier, had once been called a drama queen, just for defending my basic rights. They only knew one thing. I was a regular person, learning to love herself all over again. A middle-aged woman, her hair ash gray but her eyes shining brightly, said at the end of the workshop, "Remember, every time you set a boundary, you are not breaking the family. You are rebuilding yourself." I wrote that quote down in my journal, closed the notebook, and felt, finally, I had arrived home. Not a house built of bricks and wood, but a home within my own heart. And in that place, only those who know how to love with respect would have the key to enter. Winter arrived in Boulder with a gentle calm. The bare branches dusted with light snow seemed to lay a blanket of silence over every small street. I learned to love even the days so cold that my breath turned into mist, because with each inhale and exhale, I felt like I was truly alive. No longer living for anyone else, no longer running to earn someone's approval. One morning, while sipping hot cocoa by the window, my phone rang. It was an email, but this time, not from family, not from someone trying to pull me back into the old cycle. The sender was Kelly, a former colleague from Nashville who had once witnessed the years I endured silently. Kenzie, I just wanted to say thank you. Seeing you dare to walk away, to choose a new life, made me realize I also deserve that freedom. Today, I applied for an MBA scholarship I once didn't even dare to dream of. Thank you for daring to break the cycle so others like me could dare to follow. I smiled, my heart settling like a lake after a storm. We never truly know what kind of ripples choosing to love ourselves might create in the world around us. On a Sunday afternoon, I wandered under the rows of bare trees and stopped by a small bookstore on the corner. While running my hand along the old shelves, I stumbled upon a soft, dark blue leather notebook. I didn't know why, but I decided to buy it. Once home, I opened the first page and wrote, "You don't owe anyone your destruction just to earn their love." Simple words, but they held everything I had learned through that bitter journey. I once thought love meant enduring. I once thought staying connected to family meant unconditional suffering. I once thought if I sacrificed enough, one day they would realize and change. But now I understood. True love does not require you to disappear. A real family does not demand you lose yourself just to be accepted. One early spring evening, as the snow had just melted, I attended a small gathering at Boulder's Art Center. The theme was The Power of Saying No. People shared about times they set boundaries, about the losses and the miracles that followed. When it was my turn, I stood up, my voice still slightly trembling. Sometimes saying no isn't just rejecting a request. It's declaring, I have value. I deserve respect. I have the right to exist without sacrificing everything for someone else. The whole room applauded, not because I was brave, but because all of us had once fought the same silent battle. I left the gathering that day feeling lighter, as if I had dropped a heavy burden somewhere along the path home. On a Friday morning, I received a message from an unknown number. Only 2 short lines. "Kenzie, Mom misses you. If one day you want to talk, I'll be here." I read it over and over again, not rushing to reply. Not angry, not resentful, just a sense of calm. Because I knew, true love cannot be forced through suffering. It only blooms when both sides are mature enough to truly see each other. Maybe someday, I would reply. Maybe not. But either way, I was no longer the girl who once collapsed under the weight of the word family. I was Kenzie Hartwell, a free person, a whole person, a person who no longer needed anyone's permission to live authentically. That afternoon, I sat on a park bench, watching the first flowers of spring begin to bloom. Everything was so peaceful. No shouting, no demands, no accusations. Only the soft sound of the breeze passing by and a very clear feeling in my heart. Peace doesn't need anyone's permission. Peace is the natural right of all of us. And for the first time in my life, I had stepped forward and claimed it with my own hands.